Okay, we will move ahead now and we will look at concepts under the Islamic perspective of education. Actually, these are broad, universally accepted concepts under the foundation of anything. And that is what we are going to look at the next few minutes. The first one is ontological concepts. Let's first simply look at ontology. What is ontology? Ontology simply means the truth. And the truth under the Islamic perspective of education is really God Himself. So the truth is based on God, is based therefore on the Quran, the book that God gave to Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, the Hadith, the Fiqh, and the teachings of the Prophet, his life and history, that of the caliphs and the early Muslim rulers and philosophers. All that together makes the true reality of what needs to be taught. So when we focus on truth, we are simply focusing on God under Islam and then everything else that follows there. The question arises, is that enough? The answer in truth is yes, it should be. It should be enough because you can't question God. You can't question why He does certain things or why He does not do certain things. All that is accepted on faith, and faith is the basis of any religion, and particularly in the case of Islam, faith, which is Iman. You have to have that. If you don't have that, then nothing will begin to make sense. Once you have faith in God and in His teachings and in His works, then you begin to understand what life in its true sense is all about. So education really should be a search for truth. That is what the ontological concept really tells one to do. Search for truth. There is truth in everything, in situations, in happenings, in dealings. How do you deal truthfully? And that then leads to honesty among human beings as we interact with other people, with and around us. God is eternal, and the universe and man's existence is a reality, but it is an apparent reality. Now there's a difference here. God is eternal, unchanging, never changing, present everywhere. That fact is not going to change. It cannot change. But God created the universe. God created man and human beings in order to fill the universe and to use the blessings of the universe for themselves and others. The fact is, God is reality. We are apparent reality. We think we are real. We exist, but we are not eternal. We are not immortal. We are mortal human beings. We have to go someday. But God will exist. People are born. People die. God has been there, is there, and will be there for years to come. Until as human beings we begin to think otherwise. So as long as, under the Islamic perspective, through ontology, we can teach the truth. What is the truth? What is search for truth? Why do we search for truth? What is the purpose of finding the truth? In reality, we will never be able to understand the truth about God because nobody has seen Him. But the search for truth will help us live a better life, knowing that God sees all, knowing that God is present everywhere all the time, knowing that God exists even when we think He doesn't, is going to help us lead a better life, a search for truth. Then the creation of the universe and man is not a futile thing, but it has an aim. When God created the universe and then God created man, it was not a useless activity God did. There was a purpose why God made land and water and plants and animals and light and night and day and the stars and all that before he made human beings. And the reason is, if he had made human beings first, what would we be eating? Where would we be living? What would we be doing on a barren land? And so he created things we could use to help our life become a real more appreciative, a real more blessed, a real more benefit to us and others. He created man after he created all the other things. And so we search, we find, and in that search, we find the hidden medicines, the hidden chemicals, the hidden cures for different things in plants and sea creatures and in places where the human mind would not be looking. God placed these things there because he wanted man to live a comfortable life. When we get sick, he expects us to get better, but we have to do something to get better. We have to take the medicine. Where does the medicine come from? Then he gave us a mind to think. What is it that one needs? And so man is inventive. Man is creative. Man wants to make life better for himself and the people around him. Unfortunately, much of this is not what you see today. We search for things that are not going to help us in the year after. Money is not going to help us. Belongings and materials is not going to help us. Possessions and land is not going to help us. What's going to help us is simply our deeds. And that is the search for truth that really should happen with all human beings. That's the key. If we can get there, we will understand the truth for truth's sake. The next piece is epistemological concept. The epistemology means what is real. Now we know God is the truth. We also know God is real. If you have faith, if you have iman, you believe in that. And so the ultimate source of information and knowledge is revelation from God. What does God want one to learn? What does he expect us to learn? That's what we should be learning. And as we saw in the previous talks, that Muslim philosophers were in tune with teaching religion and teaching other areas of study that were important at that time. And as more information and knowledge comes about, we need to find out what all we need to teach. The five senses and reason are also sources of knowledge. That's how we learn. We learn through our senses, and God gave us five senses. If all human beings used all their five senses wisely in order to learn, I think we would learn what God intended us to learn. So the thing is, we have the truth. How much of that is real? How much of that is needed? We won't need every single truth all the time, but we will need pieces of the truth at different times in our life based on different aspects, situations, dealings that we undertake or are part of. And therefore, we need to be focused on the truth and the real. And that is what ontology and epistemology do. Connecting these two things, just keeping the truth and the real together, you can't separate them. Ontology and epistemology go together. The real comes from what is true, and the true belongs to what we classify as real. So it is important that we give our students today an understanding of the truth and realness of that truth as needed by each individual student in their span of time.